Alrighty, another day and a new story. Yeah, new one. This one's going to be a 15-parter, so either short or long. Nice length there. We'll see how it goes. And remember the YouTube shite and the pinned comment and all that stuff. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Pudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Ithilia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. Anyways, on to the new story. A Brood of Two, written by Faulty Logic Engine. It had been 2 days already. It should have felt good. He should have felt a sense of triumph, like he had felt after a dozen other battles. His sensory spines drooped low as a sickly feeling sunk deep into his stomach once more. He didn't like remembering that he was alone. The assault was a success. The Yeleens had fled the single port city on the planet of Yellow-Red. At least, what was left of the city. No more would they harvest minerals from their world with their pitiful slaves. Those blue bloods could take that disgusting practice with them as they gave up on profiting from this world. The Jaxian warrior glanced around at his surroundings. Shattered concrete littered the battle-damaged streets. Smoke and the odd whiff of burned flesh still hung in the air. From his battle swarms fusion rifles, no doubt. He took a few moments to steady himself. He extended 4 chitinous legs in the approximation of a stretch. His 3 sets of beady red eyes could almost see into the ruins of the second-story window. His thin abdomen pulsing as he breathed in the hot desert air. Relaxing, the Jax lowered his massive mandibles to pick up the communicator he'd left on the floor. Losing one of his 2 serrated forelimbs didn't make scavenging easy. His remaining forelimb was already preoccupied lugging around his water supplies. It didn't help that his thorax-mounted carrier pack was completely filled with rations and ammo for the fusion rifle that he had slung around his neck. He hardly knew why he kept the communicator anymore. The chatter over the comnet told him that his brood nest had been glassed from orbit. The remaining Jaxians had evacuated from the planet on the last FTL-capable shuttles that they had. He hoped that they were okay. He couldn't bear losing his entire brood, too. The entire task force was dead. His clack was gone. He was alone. Shaking his head, the Jax continued to stalk through the battered streets. He ducked into the shadows cast by the broken buildings to shield him from the blazing heat of the sun. This proved to be harder than he would have liked, seeing as he was himself nearly twice as wide and as long as many of the smaller Yeleen transports abandoned along the road. He tried not to think about his missing Clack brothers. The Clack is just silent, he blatantly lied to himself. We are in enemy territory. We couldn't afford to be detected now. Not that there are any enemies around anyway. Smelling the faint scent of recognition pheromones, he started to turn to look down the street to his left. Dark green metal baked in the afternoon sun. The proud insectoid form of a battlesuit lay in the ruins of a storefront. The Jaxian noted the characteristic shape of the argon plasma blasts around the hole in its thorax section. The likely cause of his demise. Thank you for your service to your queen and the Commonwealth, he whispered under his breath. No one replied. He remembered his Clack was no longer here. He was alone. The thoughts were more intrusive now. He was one of many, a collective of minds shared around a number of bodies. One Clack. He grew up with his 34 Clack brothers. From squirming broodlings, only able to demand food to be grown, trained warriors ready to defend their brood from invaders. They fed as one. They thought as one. They fought as one. They were the Clack Rust Talon. They were each only supposed to become Clacks of one after many long years of life. Years that they would spend together. Now he was alone. All but one Jax of the Clack Rust Talon had perished in battle, the sands of the desert world thirstily lapping at their spilt blood. Yet more losses to this pointless war. Why couldn't they just talk? He thought. All 25 different sentient species we had met barely even attempted to translate our language. When we bridged the gap in communications ourselves, they still rejected us. We were horrid monsters to them. Monsters that could occupy territory rich in valuable minerals. Monsters worth slaughtering like pests. His spitefulness welled up. He would kill those hind legs that threatened his brood. My brood, he recalled. I don't have a brood. I'm alone. Snap. The lone Jax flinched. His head shot up straight in the air, the bristles on his thorax similarly standing on end to listen to the sound. I'm hallucinating, he thought. The isolation must be getting to me. By the Emperor-select, I'm going mad. He decided to keep moving. There was no chance a broodling was living in the ruins of the city, let alone calling for sustenance. Snap! The Jax continued onwards. His sensory bristles still stood on end. Snap! He stopped. East, around 2 blocks down and half a block across. He dropped the water canister and used his forelimb claws to preen his sensory bristles. I should keep moving. It's not real. Snap! The Jax picked up the canister and sharply walked towards the source of the sound. 4 powerful legs driving him down the street. Dumbbell buildings and recviscerated Yili mercenaries passed him by as he moved. His sense of reasoning abandoned to satiate his instincts. Snap! The Jax arrived at the source of the sound. There were no Jaxian recognition pheromones in the air, but it didn't cross the warrior's mind in the rush to assist the hungry broodling. He faced the remains of a communication center. Its entrance was buried by the heavy plating for its emergency shutters. A cursory glance of the structure would have revealed that the locking mechanism for the shutters had been melted closed by a stray plasma bolt. The Jax had not cared to observe the building and notice the damage. Neither had he noticed the number of cameras that had traced his movements through the ruins of the city over the past few days. With a mighty thrust of his remaining clawed forelimb, he punched through the shutter like old drywall, biting and opening with his mandibles. He wrenched the obstacle free with a squeal, and several sonorous clangs of the locks broke, one by one. He cast it to the side. Frantically looking into the building, he froze, like a fox staring into a rabbit hole. Looking back into his eyes was the thin form of a tan-skinned biped of a species that he had never seen. A depowered slave collar still tightly bound to her neck. He noted the relief in her 2 hazel eyes, then the scent of endorphins radiating out of her. Why was it not afraid? She lazily tapped on the omnipad held loosely in their hand. A speaker next to them came to life. A loud snap of a broodling's mandibles erupted from the device. The Jax wrestled with her own mind. This was just another enemy of the Commonwealth, he reasoned. Another one of those hind legs trying to kill us. I have no need to help her. She tapped the omnipad again. Snap. His legs twitched as he smelt her breaths. She was dehydrated. He could tell easily with the low moisture content of her exhaled breath. The relief in her eyes shifted to worry. Aggressively, the woman struck the omnipad once more. Snap. Now he smelt the adrenaline. She was angry, frustrated. The Jax chittered an alien chuckle. She was no hungry broodling, but was sure acted like one. Slowly, he grabbed his water canister and brought it up to the woman, placing it on the floor in front of her. He slowly unscrewed the valve and opened the enormous canister as large as the woman in front of him. The woman moved quickly. She dropped the omnipad and stumbled across the tiled floor. Cupping her hands together, she heartily drew gulps of water to her mouth. For some reason, the warrior felt an odd sense of satisfaction come over him. Perhaps it was his hormones influencing him. Maybe it was more primal part of his brain rewarding him for caring for others. He didn't try to overcome these instincts regardless. The woman stopped drinking. Her breaths were fast and heavy. She clearly didn't pace herself, the Jax mused to himself. Picking up her omnipad off the floor, the woman tapped on it a few times. The speakers emitted a series of short jitters. Sorry for deceiving you. I didn't know how else to get your attention. Thank you for the water, she said through the device. He could smell her joy as much as see it. "It is my pleasure," the soldier chittered back. He watched her listen to a series translated vocalizations come from the machine. She smiled at him. The Chax was almost in disbelief. Never before had any other species conversed peacefully with his kind, let alone thanked him. It almost felt like he was helping one of his brood. "Maybe I'm too badly starved for company if I'm thinking that." His line of thought was interrupted when the woman spoke again. "I am Samantha, a human citizen from the Solar Confederation. The data logs of these Lee feckers kept in here says that you guys call yourself the Chax. What is your name?" The Chax pondered for a moment. Did he have a name? His clack was the rusted talon, but he did not have a clack anymore. Was he still allowed to uphold the name of the group when there was only a single individual in it? "I don't have a name." The human raised an eyebrow in response. "Well, I have to call you something. How's, She inputted a few strings of information into her Omnipad. "One who has a tendency to bite." She looked up at Chax with a wolfish grin. "One who has a tendency to bite?" The human listened to the playback of his voice from the device. Hurriedly, she inputted more data into her Omnipad and spoke into the device again. "That was a translation error. How's bitey for a name?" The Chax recoiled at the suggestion. First peaceful contact with other sentient species, and he's given a bad nickname. The arrogance of this human, acting like she was a doting queen of his brood. "Mighty is a terrible name," he deadpanned back to Samantha. "Mighty it is." Mighty sat down in front of the building, finally feeling at ease, if a little irritated for the first time in what felt like forever. "Fine, I'm Mighty." The Chax sighed. He didn't really care what he was being called. He was happy. They didn't feel alone anymore. End of chapter. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.